Kanye West is one of the most groundbreaking and critically acclaimed artists in music, and a lot of people seem to think that Kanye's signature sound is pitched up, chipmunk-like soul samples. It is, and it's incredible, but it's not on every album. So what is his signature sound? Vox has a great video essay highlighting how Kanye likes to use the voice as an instrument, which could be considered, but it's very broad in its analysis as it includes everything from using voices as instruments, to using synthesizers that sound like voices, and many other points. However, from the perspective of a music producer, I have noticed one particular technique that is a common thread throughout Kanye's discography, and implementing it in my productions has been a game changer. That technique is Kanye's use of vocal one-shots, but what makes it so special? Hi, my name is Drew Grit, and today I'm going to be analysing the role the vocal one-shots play in Kanye's production style, showing you how to make your own, and giving away a pack of ones I've made for free. So what is a vocal one-shot? Essentially, it's just a short clip of a vocal, and no matter what DAW you're using, there's probably some pretty bland, studio clean one-shots within its library, such as
Move It Deeper, New York City. Hey!
However, Kanye tends to source his vocal one-shots from old records and implements them in a number of ways. Method 1. Transitional one-shot. Yes, the iconic Bound 2.
Honey.
Which samples Brenda Lee's Sweet Nothings.
Honey.
This works amazingly for this track, and you should definitely try it, but it's not going to work all the time, whereas there is better ways that he uses it, which takes me to method 2, the melodic one-shot. This one is chopping up someone singing and repurposing that short clip as a melodic motif within your own production. For example, Diamonds from Sierra Leone.
And I realize that I've arrived cause it take more than a magazine to kill my...
Which samples Shirley Bassey's Diamonds Are Forever.
Hold one up and then caress it.
This is another great method and could work on a lot of tracks, but there's still one method that's even better, and that is method 3, the emotional one shot. What I mean by this is a visceral shout or chant that sets the emotion and fills out the background of the production. The start of Waves has 2 shouts in the first few seconds and continues throughout.
Turn it up! Turn it up! Step up in this bitch like...
One sample is Big Youth, Be Careful. And the other is the Fantastic Five with Fantastic Freaks at the Dixie.
Soundman say turn it up! Say turn it up!
But it doesn't seem right. I don't know if it's just a lot of heavy manipulation going on, and it is credited on the album, but it doesn't sound the same to me. If you have any thoughts on that, please leave a comment below. And here's another example of that same method, also at the start, with Kids See Ghosts, Fire. I couldn't find any information on whether this scream was a sample, but I still liked it as an example because maybe they actually recorded it. Like, it doesn't always have to come off old records. I could go on all day showing examples from every album, but instead I've made a Spotify playlist and even included some of the tracks of these samples. So now to make some vocal one-shots, but you might be asking yourself, what's the point? Why can't I just use vocal one-shots from classic records too? And you're right, you can. By all means, use a vocal snippet from a Marvin Gaye a cappella, but be prepared to pay for it someday. I have heard some wild stories through the grapevine of people losing most, if not all, of their royalties. So yeah, wear protection. I mean, be careful. And to make the one-shots, I'm going to use this. Yes, the microphone you've probably seen interviewing dogs on TikTok. I could use a proper mic, like this SM57, but I thought this could be a fun experiment in trying to get some lo-fi character from this crappy mic. You could do the same experiment with your laptop mic, your phone mic, or just any mic, it doesn't really matter. And I also explored harnessing different emotions, using different stimulants, recording in different environments, and mispronouncing different words.
Labra, labra, spud, spud, labra, spud.
Now for the fun bit, processing. 5 simple steps, followed by 5 advanced steps if your recordings need it. Number 1, EQ. Clean up the recording, fix any problem frequencies, etc. I've just rolled off some of the low end rumble and cut some of the highs, because too much high end clarity can make it sound very digital. Number 2, compression. Fatten it up and give it some compression confidence. I've used my favourite preset, Gentle Squeeze, but you can do whatever you want. Just don't flatten it completely. Number 3, reverb. Only use room, plate, or spring reverb, because that's all they had back in the day. Kid Capone pointed this out in one of his videos. He got this info from Mario Luciano, and now I'm passing it on to you. Merry Christmas. Number 4, tape saturation. Back in the day, recording studios recorded to tape, which gives subtle saturation to all the recordings. That's why I've used a saturator with the mix down low on the channel and tape cassette 2 on the master to cover everything. Most tape plugins emulate cassette tapes, but the real difference between the high-end studio quality tape and the cassette tapes that consumers had is the noise. So if you pick a gentle setting and turn the noise down, that will give you a similar aesthetic. Number 5, vinyl. To make it sound like it's been pressed to vinyl, I'm going to be using RC20, but if you don't have that, you can get isotope vinyl, which is free. All you're trying to do is get that crackle and wear and tear of a record. Depending on your recordings, depending on the plugins you use, depending on the settings you used, this might be enough. This has took my recording from sounding like this to this. But I also have 5 advanced steps that might just take it to that next level. Number 1, preamp. In a studio, a mic would run into a preamp, which would heat it up a little bit. To do this, I would recommend Prefet, which is also a free plugin, at the start of the channel with a low setting. It's all about these subtle differences that add up over a chain to give that vintage sound. Number 2, fake mastering. Before it would be pressed to vinyl, it would be mastered, and to emulate that, I'd put some mix gel compression on the master and the remove mud EQ preset to make things feel more cohesive. Number 3, vintage EQ. I used a vintage EQ preset to try and push that vintage vibe even further, with a boosted low end and even more highs cut off. Number 4, cabinet. I felt like at this stage everything needed a common texture, and I achieved that by running it through a guitar cabinet. I changed it from mono to dual so that it's stereo and mixed it to taste. Number 5, extreme EQ. Going back again to that idea of old records having more of a muffled high end, I used the Radio 40's channel strip EQ, and these changes took it from this to this, which I think gives it just that little bit extra. Now that you've exported it, feel free to experiment with anything, just like Kanye would. What I would recommend doing is take your one shot, drag it into a session, pick a tempo, and add some crazy delay. Baby Audio has a delay plugin which is free called Magic Dice, which has an amazing randomize feature. You can get some crazy Yeezus type stuff. Some great rhythmical stuff. Try different mix levels and so on. Go mental and thank me later. So far you've only heard a fraction of the pack, which I repeat is free. It includes the dry, wet and some experiments. And not only that, I'm going to link my good friend Spy Review's vocal one-shot pack as well. Big man is fresh off landing a New Music Friday placement with the incredibly talented Becky McNeese, 2 of Northern Ireland's finest. If you've enjoyed this video enough, like and subscribe. I'm about to hit 300 meatball subs. But more importantly, download the samples and go make some heat. Also link me anything you've made, I love to hear new music. And I'm aware that there's probably a bunch of techniques that Kanye's used throughout his career. So if you can think of any of those, leave a comment below. Or even comment your favourite track where Kanye uses vocal one-shots. And if you haven't seen the Netflix Genius documentary, do it. It's heartbreaking, inspiring, and beautiful throughout. Thanks for watching.